Welcome back, everyone, to the Unified podcast. I'm really excited for this episode. I hope you've been enjoying the new setting in here. This is where we have Unified every Thursday night, our college ministry, so it's special to be in an empty room. We were just talking about that and
That's cool.
Just having some deeper conversation. This episode worked out awesomely because my friend Matt Reagan is in town. And he's a world traveler, so we got to take advantage when he's here. But Matt is, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell him about what you do.
Yeah.
Kind of just, give him the cliff notes.
Pastor in Louisville at a church, been there 20 years, love it. Have 5 kids, which is amazing. My son Sam is here at Unified and absolutely love this guy. And just met his wife last night.
Yeah.
And, amazing. And the kids, just met the kids too. Love ministry, love the Big C church. And the Lord has really opened the door to just be, I've gotten to do things kind of all around the world, which has been wild and a gift. And our church is very, it's on behalf of our church. Our church really loves the Big C church as well. And so, do lots of things here or there, but, just love Jesus and he's transformed my life. I'm a former inner city street kid that he just poured out a lot of grace on, and I'm just very, very, very thankful. So he's the best.
Yeah. Just really wanted to have you on and take advantage of your time here because even just in the, few months now that we've known each other, which we met through your awesome son, Sam, who's one of our leaders here, but people just need to hear your voice, especially college students in our ministry. And I'm just extremely thankful for your hospitality toward me, my family, and helping me out in ministry and just giving all that wisdom. And so it would be silly of me not to ask you about the topic that I came up with here a couple of days ago. Basically, we've talked about it, but to introduce it to everyone who's listening, kind of a hot topic around college students right now, like what they like to talk about is the thing around stewardship.
Yeah.
And they're just in this place where they're constantly trying to think about, how do I have this balance in life? How do I do things that's glorifying to God at all times, but how does it not feel like I'm trying to follow this set of rules with no love in it, but then also I know I need to do things even though I don't feel it, all this kind of thing. And so I think you're someone who is an amazing steward of what God has put in your life with your family, your spouse, your ministry. And so initial thoughts, and then I'll ask you questions from there.
Yeah, stewardship is, it's gonna sound funny. Every time I think of stewardship, I think of an old person talking about what to do with money.
True.
And that was always so weird for me. But probably the more I've just leaned into the kingdom, the more I think there is that question, like, I remember as a young follower, I was just like, man, I just want to leverage my life well, and I want to know that I'm doing it faithfully. And so, it kind of shifts probably, and it's probably like the natural progression. It moves from what do I need to do? But then when you're just obedient in the need tos, and part of my heart is I almost don't want people to start there, but sometimes that's just the way it works. You start with, man, I want to, what do I need to do? It's kind of like the baby steps part. But then you just start being obedient and leveraging this one and only life. And then you fall madly in love. And stewardship becomes, how do I surrender? How do I sacrifice this? Like, how do I lay down my life so that I can better be a part of God's agenda and what he's doing. And it's just such a ride. But I think, 2 things I think, I guess my initial thoughts would be, it's not something that you take baby steps for too long into. I'm always, and I feel like you're like this. I love the culture here. There's a community that woos you into everything. And it's like, I had this great gift of being around people who I didn't know that that's what you would call it. I wouldn't call it stewardship, but there were people that like their money, their resources, their time, their energies, their home, their car. I mean, like you name it, they just acted like everything was his and it was intoxicating.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, dang, I want to do that, man.
Yeah.
Like I want my life and my kids and like I want to be in a place where we actually believe it's all his.
Yeah. Is that how you would shortly describe stewardship, is treating everything as his? Is that what you would say?
I think so. Like, I think it's that mindset of, I don't really own anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the talents that, we make a lot of our talents in North America and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, but he gave us those too. And then it's like spiritual gifting. He gave us those too.
Which
and
changes
the
your whole
friendships.
world.
And it does, man.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
You said earlier something that was really profound about this that I wanted you to hit on. I won't say it for you, but it was along the lines of, before you steward the things you have, you said what you said.
Yeah, I think most people want to steward their influence.
Yeah.
One of the things that I hear people talk about, especially young leaders, but I say that I think young leaders get a bad rap. I would rather be around young leaders than anybody else, if I'm being honest. But really, anybody who comes into this, they're like, man, okay, so how do I leverage my influence? And they start thinking of platforms. They start thinking of, and what's interesting to me, and I think this is just Bible, is, but also maturity, is before you ever learn how to steward your influence, I wish people would slow down and learn how to steward their identity, because it's only in when you figure out who you really are. Like sometimes we need to slow down a little bit. Like, man, I'm a son. I'm a daughter. I'm like, what does it mean to be his? Anybody who's around me, you probably already tired of it. Like, Romans 8:19 is my thing. It changed my life. And it's just creation waits with eager anticipation for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed. And that came to me in a season where I was trying to steward my life well. I was super busy. I was doing ministry, but I was kind of young. And my schedule was full and I had lots of demands and I was trying to do everything. But inwardly, I remember sitting at this coffee shop, and it was after a big thing, and all these people had done a deal and it was all great. But I sat in that coffee shop that morning, and I think we alone know what's really going on inside. The Lord knows, but we can. A lot of religious activity can really fake people out about what's going on inside. And so I just sat in this coffee shop, and I just remembered in my journal, I'm like, man, I'm like the worst believer ever. Like, all this stuff is happening, but honestly, I know I am not closer to you now than I was 6 months ago, Lord.
Oh, wow.
I just know I'm not. Like, and now more people think I'm amazing, but like, I don't have an abiding prayer life with you. I don't, like, I'm doing stuff and it's having an impact. It's like influencing people.
Yeah.
But I just always have this picture. I'm going to stand before the one whose eyes blaze like fire, not because he's mad, but because you can't fake him out. Like, he just sees everything, not just the bad stuff. He also sees your potential. And I just sat there and I was just like, man, maybe I'm just bad at this. And that was when I was in Romans. I was in a study, and Romans 8:19 hit, and it was like, creation waits with eager anticipation for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed. And it just like hit me like wild. The Lord just spoke into my chest, and it was almost like with like a half smile almost. Yeah. But he was just like, Matt, the only thing I have ever asked you is to just be my boy. Just be my boy and watch what I do with your life. And it was like, I remember I went outside and I had this 94 Toyota Corolla where the air conditioning didn't work. And I just like cried. And that's not really a thing I did at the time. I just bawled, man. I just realized I went the wrong direction. I was trying to leverage influence and talent and my energy and my time, but I had never really learned how to steward sonship, and
that's good.
And it was a deal.
Yeah. What would I know we haven't discussed these questions. I'm thinking them as you're talking.
Yeah.
But you're good at that. What would you say to someone, a college student, and this is me asking too, how do you balance and steward where I know I shouldn't just try and always stay in this comfortable zone and I should be seeking to do more for the kingdom of God? How do you balance seeking to do more and have a great impact on behalf of God, whilst also stewarding first your sonship and your identity without that becoming the thing?
Well, you're doing the Romans study right now. So everything is Romans 8 for me because it's such a hinge for me, and really Romans 12, which you're preaching tonight. Yeah. But I think for me, I don't think you can fully walk into your identity without learning how to steward your eyes for the kingdom. And so, like, I can't, if I start to know that I'm a son and I start to recognize that, I have resources that are not from me, when I start realizing all that kind of stuff, if I don't immediately, and I think sometimes we wait too long. I think there's a national stat. It makes me really sad. I hope it's still not true. It was like probably 10 years ago that 80% of people that do what you do, that step in and preach, had never led somebody personally to Christ in their life before.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow,
wait, what?
That's crazy.
And I think some of that is because we delay. We're like, some people are like, well, I really need to work on my identity. So it's like they isolate themselves totally.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they don't see the poor, and they don't see, and it's like, I mean, the way of Jesus is you can't carry your identity. You can't receive that kind of love and not have an outlet. There have to be, so I think we want it clean. We want it like, well, I need to pull away from my lost friends, and I need to, it's like, yes, you need to pull yourself away from those influences. And maybe with that group, but it's like you have to keep engaged with eyes for people and seeing people, and even right off the bat, learning how to share your faith and not waiting until you have your PhD in it. And depending on him, giving money away that you don't have because he just prompted you to. I remember doing that early, and I'm like, I don't think I have that money, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna get home. And then the Lord just like, the way I learned in those seasons, I don't know that you can learn your identity without giving sacrificially and then realizing his provision shows up, because that's how you figure out, I am really his. And I don't think you can recognize that he really gives you words and like to mature and hearing his voice until you put yourself in a situation where you're like, I kind of feel stupid talking to you, but man, I just feel like the Lord loves you. Tell me about your life. Tell me what's going on. It's like the way God, only on mission do we receive parts of our identity that are the most him. I don't know. I don't know if I answered that right or not, did. But
it makes me think of, at a time in my life, like 3 years ago, I was only 2 years in to ministry, and there was a season, probably 2 to 3 months, where I was getting the most positive feedback on my ministry and preaching specifically that I ever had. And I had this big identity crisis, because this was the most positive feedback, compliments, encouragement that I'd had. But I was getting off stage and being like, I feel like I'm being encouraged for someone that it's not actually me, because I was trying to replicate people or found ways to be effective on stage, but wasn't being who God actually made me to be. Was trying to be the pastor that most pastors are, like, because that was a big thing for me when I entered ministry. Was I feel like most pastors are very extroverted, very loud, in a good way, very had great charisma, and I always felt like I need to try and gain that. And so when I could gain that with a mask on stage, I started getting feedback, but then it wasn't doing anything, and I felt really bad, and felt worse than I did before. And then, so it felt like that was actually God's kindness to see, I'm not, like, you can do it this way, and people might like that, but I'm trying to show you that I want you to just be who I made you to be in this role. And so when I dove into that, it felt like I was stewarding my identity as who he made Aaron to be, and then was better at what he was having me do. Due to it.
And you watching you and proud of you, but also like the culture. I see the people around you too. I do think once you get rooted in your identity and to really steward that well, that's the only way to then carry what's coming.
Right.
Because when he brings influence, and when he brings, then it's like, then there's a weight with that, and there's a real enemy out there. And so you really have to be only when you have your identity secured, can you really then steward the weight of, the emotional weight of responsibility. And, then you got to steward relationships, and you got to steward, just hard obedience things and all that stuff. If you don't really steward your identity, it kind of all comes crashing down because you can't hold it. And that's why I love, you talking, even you mentioning that, so many people are trying to be somebody else. And it's like, oh man, bro, the Lord is so good at creating things, man. Yeah. Like he's so good at it. Just let him be him, man. Like who you are, trust him, sit in it, get a community that will point out where everybody's not trying to clone something, but really trying to, like, communities are so powerful when they understand the beauty of uniqueness, and they can, point like, dude, I love that you're an encourager, and dude, I love that and you just start to blossom and grow in your identity. And then, so much can be, stewardship kind of comes out of that almost, when you know who you are, you just roll, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to a college age person, so like that 18 to 24, 25 realm, where they're like, okay, I'm a student, maybe they're dating, they've got their own family that might be in another state, all these friendships, trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life, serving in their church and their ministries. What would you say would be some advice to see that, is there an area of my life that maybe I should take out, or know, like, how would you advise someone knowing when to take a position or a title they have in their life out, or when to add one, or when to just steward what is there well? What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's like the $1 million question, man. Like, I think some of that, I don't know that you can answer it without good community is what hits me. I think a lot of young people are a little too quick to run from the thing that's there to form them. So it's like, well, this is really hard. It's like,
so it mustn't be God.
Well,
I should leave it. Right. That's
yeah. One of my favorite passages, Jeremiah 12:5. Jeremiah is kind of complaining.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, Lord, it's hard. And in fairness, I think he had like 40 attempts on his life. So to put it in perspective.
For sure.
But he's complaining. And finally the Lord speaks in 12:5 and he speaks to him and he says, Jeremiah, if you've run with men on foot and they've worn you out, how do you expect to compete with horses? Like if you've stumbled into safe country, how do you expect to manage in the thickets by the Jordan? And what he's saying to him is like, Jeremiah, you think this is it? Like I'm creating muscles in you and strength in you and resilience in you so that you can do impossible things. Yeah. Don't reject the weight that's on your shoulders right now. I know it's easier to throw it off. Because I think some of these people are like, man, I've got business, I've got school, and I've got this thing, and I'm like, for sure, in community, you need to say, hey, there are some of these things that are pulling me off course?
Right.
I wish more young people would say, Lord, thank you for right now building the kind of resilience in me that will make me the kind of father, leader,
right,
like kingdom worker that, I was just in a room with, I told you I was just in a room with Ukrainian missionaries, and they're literally, their whole world is, I'm literally watching pictures of the guy who was like, yeah, this was my car that got blown up by a drone, and this was, and I'm like, what's your wife up to? He's like, well, right now she's on the front lines. She was just calling me with drones going over her head. And they're like, we want the war to stop, but at the same time, the gospel's so fruitful right now. And I'm just like,
that's crazy
perspective, And I was just with a friend. I get to spend a lot of time with missionaries, which gives you a lot of perspective.
Yeah.
And, you just see these amazing people doing these amazing things that shouldn't be possible. How did they get there? A lot of that is they didn't reject the weight training part of like for young men and women, this is your time. Like this is where you get faith muscles, resiliency muscles, the ability to multitask and make high level decisions on what matters and what doesn't. And it would be easier for somebody to make all your decisions. But you figuring out community and how to make wise decisions is actually the lesson.
That's good. This is going to help a lot of young people's communities listen to this, because I think what I see in young people, specifically here, and probably elsewhere too, is if it's not visibly fruitful, it must mean that God wants you to cut it out. And then you just reminded, you're like, what garden is fruitful 365 days a year?
Yeah.
Like, what is invisibly?
Oh, dude.
But there's always things in the soil that's being done. And so that's just going to be helpful, because you see it in relationships. They're like, oh, there's been this issue. This is hard right now. And I've been praying, does God want me to be in this relationship? And clearly this might be God saying no. And it's like, or that's, and I think just that, I think that's the word that some of young people just need to think through more is, or could it be this?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite passages, Paul says, it's one of those lines, it's like one of those sneaky little ones where he says, I must stay on in Ephesus a little longer because a great and effective door for evangelism has opened, and there are many who oppose me.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I got to stay because something wild just happened. But he's not like, hey, there's a bunch of people who oppose me, so I'm assuming I need to go to another town.
Exactly.
He's like, a lot of times where the opposition is where the kingdom opportunity is. So, I have boys and then a sweet daughter that I say this different to, but so I'm learning how to say this. So females, I'm sorry if but I will say, this is when I say the boys, bow up, man. Like, this is what you're made for. To this you were called. Like, this is where faith muscles come in. This is where you get to be. This is where we get to be like the ones we read about, who, in spite of drought and famine and challenge and weight, we just decide to be resolute, and that's so unique anymore.
I think young people, just by seeing it and mirroring it, is. Let me word this right. I think a lot of young people cut things out of their life when it gets hard, and it's masked and seen as wisdom and as faith in God, but really it's just a lack of resilience.
And again, and not to be that guy, be that guy, but I'm like, just tell me from, I'm not trying to be that guy. Just tell me you can look at the hours on your phone, and tell me you can look at your TV viewing stuff and the extras, that really what needs to get cut out is that thing.
100%.
Because I just, and again, it's not just young people, it's everybody, but we've just become a little self-care-ish where, we want to do something great for God followed by a mani-pedi. And it's like, well, it just doesn't always work that way, man. Like sometimes, caring for the poor means for the next 3 to 6 months, you have to work. I was in Peru. Okay. I'll give you this example if it's all right.
Yeah.
And I'm with these young leaders, and they're balling. Like, they're just so great.
Yeah.
We're going house to house, telling people that have never heard the gospel before about Jesus. And I don't think I totally just hopped in with them because that's how it was just super fun. And nobody was over 24 probably. We go house to house to house, and we're telling people about Jesus. And it was wild. They've never heard, and they were just responding like crazy. And it was wild. It's another story for another time. Beautiful. And so we're all kind of laughing like, what the heck? That was amazing. It was incredible. And we all kind of split up, and literally, like, I think that day, like 100 people accepted Christ that day. And it was wild. Like anyways, so we get in this boat. We've got we're going down the Amazon because we're like in the very middle of the Amazon, and you can only get there by boat or plane. It's wild. And so we go in to the city, and they're like, okay, man, like, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, I'm hanging out with you, apparently. Like, what? Because I was supposed to speak at something a couple days later. Yeah. And they're like, we do this thing at this school. You want to come? I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So I go, and I'm like, what do you guys do? And they're like, well, we all work night jobs, And so we can do this thing at the school. So immediately I'm like, I love that, man.
Yeah.
You're rearranging your priorities. And so we go to the school, and they're hanging out with all these kids probably in the most impoverished part of there, and the whole city built on stilts. And they're just these young people walk in the door, and these kids just light up. And I'm like, who's your organization? They're like, it's us. I'm like, you don't have an organization? They're like, no, we just saw a bunch of kids, and we were like, what if we start showing up and teach them games and tell them the gospel and sing them songs? And I'm like, you all just came up with this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you're wild. I just love this. So then we get done, and they're like, hey, can you? They keep. I can't tell them no to anything because they're like my favorite people by this time. They're like, hey, will you come? If we tell all these kids, we do a little feeding center for them. I'm like, you do what? And they're like, well, yeah, we run a feeding center. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, whose is it? And they're like, oh, it's ours. They're like, I'm like, so they're like, yeah, the jobs we work at night, that's to pay for the feeding center for the kids because we couldn't keep coming to serve the kids and see them go hungry. I'm like, y'all run a feeding center? You guys all work extra jobs to run a feeding center. And they're like, hey, is there any way you could share the gospel of the parents? And so we went down there and so we walk in, I'm playing with some kids, and they're like, they're out here. Would you come? Would you, just come share the gospel? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I walk out. The entire town came to hear the gospel because a group of 24 and under year olds had so loved their community and fed their kids. And that day, hundreds of people accepted Christ. Wow. And it wasn't because of this cat. It was because their kids had been loved by a group of 20-somethings who saw it, did something, did the next thing, worked extra jobs. I'm like, cloning all of you. You're amazing. Yeah. And I was just like, they didn't do what was easy, but the fruit is just, I was like, man, more of that, man.
And they also didn't sit and wait around. No. They saw a need.
They didn't wait for somebody to point it out. They didn't wait for, somebody to make an announcement to go do the thing. Their eyes saw the kingdom, and they were like, I wonder if we could do something. You guys want to do this? They're like, oh. And they just... And they were fun, and they were so fun to be around. It was the
Which
best.
is a reality check for some college students who have a call to ministry, is what they would say. And their questions is, what do I do now, before that comes? That's like, what do I do before, I go into ministry? I mean, I was saying it. And you hear stories like that, and you're like, look for the need.
Go, man.
And do it.
Steward that one and only life. Yeah. How many friends do you go to the gym, go to the gym, find some people who don't know Jesus, tell them about Jesus. Yeah. You're going to be terrible at it. Get over yourself. 100%. Get better at it. Yeah. Yeah, learn some lessons. It's hard to be rejected. But then as soon as you have one or two of them really accept Christ, their whole lives change. You're like, oh, this is wild. Yeah. And you just get better at it because you just learn. But you don't learn if you don't do it. You got to steward that time. You got to steward the pain of, well, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. It's like, well, none of us ever do, man. Just hop in, man. There's no master class on this. Yeah.
And I think, there's stewardship and evangelism, and it's evangelizing and witnessing based on where God has you and what he's had you through. I think of 14-year-old me who...
I would love to meet 14-year-old you.
Appreciate that. Didn't have anywhere near the amount of knowledge I have now, which still isn't much. But what I knew was that I loved God. And so when I was around the people that I loved who didn't know God, what I had in mind was, if I could just get them around to my family's house, I feel like they would get a picture of what this is. Because when I saw Jesus most clearly as a kid was in my house. Yeah. With how my parents were and how they functioned. And so my evangelism tactic was, that's what I know. So I would befriend them and immediately want them to hang out at my house with my family and have dinner with our family. And I have 2 friends now that have been following God for years now. And it was due to not that I did that conversation really well. It was just, oh, you should come to my house. And then being like, what does your dad do? And I say, and they're like, oh, that's weird. And I'm like, but you should just come over and hang out. And then being loved by my parents and being accepted by them was evangelism. Yeah. And that was all I did as a 14-year-old. the amount of like young guys from my basketball team or from my school that were just constantly coming to my house, and my parents would be like, "Who's this one now?" I'm like, just do your thing, and that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, I think you naturally steward what you care about. Mm-hmm. And so that's why stewardship is such a weird thing, because it sounds finances, but it's like to steward is to sit there and go, okay, I got to figure this out. Right. So you figure out dating.
Yeah.
If you want to date, you figure out friendships, you figure out what school you're going to go to. I mean, I always say it like this, we have some of the most educated, brilliant minds that know more about math and physics and management and leadership than we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And then these tiny little things like sharing your faith, for example, that, forever nobody talked about it with me. And so I always did it on my own, and I didn't realize the best thing you'll ever do is learn how to, that Jesus style evangelism is boats and nets, not rods and reels. Just do it with people. If you're like the newbie, be like, dude, I got a group, man. You got to come see this. You got to, and leverage each other's relationships and personalities. But if you don't, some of that is found in the figuring it out, and even a group like all of them sitting around going, how do we steward this community, not just myself? Like, how do we did this, where we were, how do we all help each other reach each other's friends, which is way more fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you feel way less like a loser when you do it that way.
Yeah.
So
the last question I'll give you is, because you do this really well. I think it's easy for especially people who work for the church and that's their whole world. You do a good job of still being around non-believers and being in places where you can witness and them see into your life and what God does in your life. Mm-hmm. How would you advise college students who maybe feel like they're in maybe a Christian bubble, or trying to figure out ways at how they keep a good Christian community, but are put in the stewarding, being good witnesses and being around some non-believers?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. My answer might not be a good one, because I feel the same way about, I think stewardship is learning how to grow parts of your life that really matter for the kingdom, which is stewarding your time and energy and all that stuff. So it's like with prayer, it's like you never kind of tiptoe into loving prayer. I mean, I'd say you never really tiptoe your way into stewarding your life for evangelism. You just gotta go, and you gotta, if Jesus was a friend to sinners, because we're all just trying to be like Jesus, then getting creative with, because I work at a church that has a gym, and I could be there, but I have to, so I literally went to a couple gyms, and if a bunch of church people talked to me, I was like, not my gym.
Yeah, that's good.
So I finally picked a gym where I walked in and nobody knew who I was. And I was like, this is my gym.
Yeah.
And just creating patterns in your life to be around lost people and for that to be an expectation with friends. I was in Germany just last week, and I knew I was going to be with a bunch of missionaries. Mm-hmm. But I've found so much joy in evangelism, because it's like God always shows up on the front lines. I was like, everybody's like, I want him in a feeling. I'm like, well, so many people get disenfranchised sitting in a seat here, and they're like, God, give me the feeling again. He's like, bro, get on the, go where I'm at. Not that he doesn't love that. He loves intimacy. 100%. And so, I just have fallen so in love with watching him do what he does. It's so intoxicating to watch him change a life. Yeah. So, just last week I was like, man, I need a place to work out. I need to get around I'm going to be around the most church people on the planet.
The story's crazy.
And so I just grabbed a gym. I was right down. It's just look for opportunities. In Germany. It's the tiny little town. I saw somebody jacked that was my waitress and waiter. And I'm like, where you guys work out? And they're like, we work down here. And I was like, is there any way? And they're like, we would love to have you work out. So fast forward, I'm there for 10 days for a missions thing. It has nothing to do with that. And I got to present the gospel to 10 people and ended up on a train, long story, with this girl and her parents and sharing the gospel. And all these amazing stories that all of us want to be a part of come when you're like, let's just do something. Let's just go. Let's how could we get around some lost people? How could we, like, let's be creative as we are about everything else in our lives. Let's get creative about, again, how to steward our lives to just impact people. And also, none of us, we all want to get, I want to be in a rocking chair with my wife, which my wife is the best. And just know that we just guns blazing. We just got to leverage our one and only lives, and all of our kids are madly in love with Jesus, and by grace that all of our grandkids, and like anybody who was in our house and people that, we never would have planned on just came to know him. And it's like when you have that mindset, then you're always kind of looking for it. You're always like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait.
I think it's Romans 10 or Romans 11 where it says, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. And it's like, it's remembering that where your feet are you going to be that? And where is that? And it's another reminder I have from your life is you have these amazing stories like that, those ones in the gym in Germany. And then I'm in Louisville with your family, getting to be around your church, and we're showing up for church on Sunday, and you're like, I've been getting my hair cut by this guy for a long time. And you're like, I've been trying to get him to come forever. And he came that Sunday. And that's a reminder too, is you're going to have those moments that where your feet are, you bring good news and there'll be immediate impact. And then there'll be ones where this is a long journey, but you're going to be faithful to and steward where you get your hair cut. Like there's just little ways like that. Like maybe your friend in your dorm room doesn't have to cut your hair. Like just go and be around the world. Dude.
And so much of stewardship is mindfulness. So it's like, it's picking the gym, but then it's before you go in the gym, I'm like, Lord, you do the wildest stuff all over the world right now. I would love for you to open a door for a conversation with me, with somebody. Would you just help me see it? Let me notice somebody uniquely. Let me, and it's like when you go in and you're like partnering with the Holy Spirit and you're just like, man, just show me, Lord. It's wild how, he has such a heart for people that the second you tap into it, it's like it feels like every day you're on this adventure with him, just loving people on his behalf. And it doesn't feel like, it just moves out of that I have to, or I probably should, or I'm really bad at it. And just that world, so many people never get past that, but it's like, it's beautiful. It's so fun. It's just the best. So
it's amazing, man. Well, we haven't done this before on the podcast, but just to close out the podcast, would you just pray for?
No, I would love to, man. I'd love to.
The people listening in this, with this topic.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, Father, we do ask for a group of people. I love the question, and I know there are probably a lot of people listening to this that really do. They just want to honor you. They just want to please you. They just want to steward their lives well, and they want their yeses to count and their nos to count. And they want it. They can see it with their eyes. But Father, I pray, Lord Jesus, that you would just remove the veil from their eyes and allow them afresh to just see what the kingdom could look like. Just a rich community, just paint fresh pictures of your son Jesus and how he lived and what he did, not out of obligation, but just out of love. God, I pray for anybody listening that just needs strength right now to do hard things. Lord Jesus, that some of stewardship in their life means I need to endure, which is what Jesus taught us how to do well. I need to endure right now so that I can have the kinds of muscles and the kind of faith muscles and emotional muscles to do really what I was made for. Then God, I pray that you not only give them endurance, but give them eyes for what's over the horizon so that they always know that there is a joy in the kingdom. There is, with Jesus, it was for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. He didn't just endure it like he endured it knowing what was on the other side. So every time we suffer, every time we go through something hard, every time we buckle down and save money or save time or save resources or protect things, it's always because there's something on the other side that's so amazing that we just can't miss it. So, Father, I just pray for anybody that's listening right now that they would be wooed into the adventure of a lifetime, which is just knowing you and following you. And it just, I pray that so many of them give more stuff away than they ever dreamed. I pray that they would walk into rooms and have conversations with people and watch you show up in ways that you just surprise them with the activity of the kingdom and how much you love people and how much you love them. God, keep them rooted in their identity. Teach them the ways of your Son, Jesus, and just empower them by your Spirit to do what they were made for. And God, I pray that you would raise up missionaries and leaders and preachers and evangelists. We need lots of evangelists right now, disciple makers, teachers, all of it. Just, Father, just pray that you pour your Spirit out in a fresh way, and you would help us steward these lives well. Pray that in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hope you all enjoyed, and thanks, Matt, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hope this bless you. Send it to who needs it. We'll see you next time.